The beer industry is probably pretty unique. You are collaborating on a host of different levels. You know, it's easy to get like lost in what you're doing day in and day out, but when you have the chance to share that with someone, you realize that you have your own set of intentional choices and like your own philosophy behind things that maybe you take for granted. Taking our beer and our brand somewhere else kind of lets us see it through a different lens. Collaboration beers are kind of interesting at its most basic. It's like a cross-promotion type of thing. You both get to like post and advertise it, and you get to be seen by their customers and they get to be seen by yours. I think the bigger thing is just kind of like getting someone else's perspective on things and seeing yourself through their eyes, and like, you know, them getting to see, you know, how you're viewing them. You kind of come out of it, in the best ones, I think, more inspired.
Greg Lehman. I affectionately refer to myself as Farsi means beekeeper. I've been working in the actual, you know, craft beer community now for probably about 10 years. But I do sales, some marketing, help around with packaging, bartend. It's really difficult to navigate the craft beer world, more than ever right now. There's, I don't know, upwards of 10,000 breweries out there. Everybody's putting out what they think is cool and what they think other people are gonna like, and every single brewery has a different mindset. I certainly think Forest and Maine has a different mindset than anybody else. So I think one reason that we really enjoy doing collaborations is we're doing it with like-minded folks. We're doing it with breweries that we love, we respect, we love their liquid, we end up loving them as people. And it's really cool. The analogy I like to say is, it's like having two tuning forks, or 3 or 4 or 5 tuning forks that are all the same pitch. And when you have that and you vibrate one tuning fork, and then you introduce another one of the same pitch, it starts vibrating at that same frequency. And it's giving off those same vibes, and it starts spreading and it starts amplifying.
I think it like pushes you a little bit outside of your comfort zone sometimes. Like maybe you embrace an ingredient that you might not otherwise because the other person like really wanted to use it. Like when Ben Potts brought the Asian boys spice, you know, we just kind of rolled with it and embraced it. I never would have bought that or put it in a beer, but we did, and I think it probably added some subtle layer to that beer that wasn't going to show up otherwise. So the past few years, we've done a collab with like 5 other breweries, younger breweries in the Philly area around Beer Week. Philly Beer Week has this like official beer called Brotherly Suds. It's usually a collab of like some more established breweries usually. So we kind of did like our own version of it.
I guess I started it. I respect all the people in this room, so I thought it would be cool to get everybody together and have fun under my roof. As far as collaborations go, that was one of the cooler ones because we all just sort of threw stuff out there, I feel like, and nothing was really planned for the most part.
I think we've always tried to make it fairly spontaneous.
Yeah.
It's an excuse to like get together and have fun and kind of get to know each other a little bit better every time. And we were really lucky to be involved because I personally have like looked up to all you guys as brewers, and we're just some young boys here coming from like home brewing.
And none of us are corporate brewers or anything, you know what I mean? So it's like, we're all in this together, struggling.
It's usually a pretty fun day. I feel like as far as collab go, like that's usually one that like is more about getting together and hanging out. Trust falls and everything.
Self-portraits.
That one had activities. Most collabs don't have activities. Yeah, that one turns more into like a little party, I think.
Maybe it's just an excuse to hang out and drink beer, but I feel like there's something more than that. Very few other industries do collaborations like that. Like, I can't think of many. The product is just like an excuse to get together and talk and like inspire each other, hopefully. He made an IPA with them. He made a Saison with them. If I don't ever get to try it, it's like, you know, that's a bummer, but I don't know, it's a beer. But the day was better than the beer would ever be.
I can remember the first collaboration I was a part of, and Dan and Jared invited me to go down to Shenandoah, Virginia, and hang out with their friends at Pen Druid. Just this idyllic setting, and you're at Shenandoah Mountain Range, is just a mile next to it, right next to us, like literally a mile away. And I get there and they ask me to start a fire because they have a wood-fired kettle outside. Then just getting to listen to the Pen Druid brothers talk about how they're making this beer in this rustic way, but then they're combining it with these very scientific methods, and they're, you know, testing the beer in all these different points. And the end recipe is a 6-barrel batch that took 6 hours to make because it's wood-fired, and then it's going into a cool ship, and it's picking up yeast in the air, and then it's going into a barrel, and it'll be ready in a year. And just seeing that happen, I can remember thinking, like, what else is going on that I don't know about?
I think rustic is a word that's thrown around the beer industry a lot, but this was rustic.
The collab with Todd and Fontaflora was a lot of fun. That was one where like trading ideas back and forth just kind of like happened really quick. I think we all come from like a pretty similar inspiration point. So like the idea of doing a beer to guard and using like local corn, you know, appealed to both of us. That was the first time we used some malted corn from Deer Creek here, and then it was also the first time we did like a cereal mash with some of the corn that they brought that wasn't malted. So kind of like an extra production step that we don't typically do. Again, like something that was maybe outside our initial comfort zone or just our usual repertoire.
I'm Todd with Fontaflora Brewery in Nebo and Morganton, North Carolina. We're in like a 1,400 square foot like flat iron brick building with hardwood floors throughout and a basement underneath, and we built like a shower sort of insert and then like poured a pad inside of that, and that's where we put like the tiny little brew house.
When they post about these crisp corn lagers, they all look so refreshing, and so we kind of asked, why don't we do something like that here, but a little more farmhouse rustic style.
But this particular corn was 3 different varieties of heritage corn, all grown about 3 miles down the road from our farmhouse brewery.
The corn they brought was raw corn. With the raw stuff, you need to kind of pre-gelatinize it, soaking it in some boiling water first. So we did like a special corn rest before we did the rest of the mash rest on there. Some collabs, they just kind of like, they ferment, they sell, and they're kind of gone. This one feels pretty special, and I think tastes really spectacular. I think that's another great thing about like collabs like that, where you get to see how intentional someone is with the choices they make and the types of things they're doing.
So we've been talking about collaborations. I've been mentioning breweries and collaborating with breweries, but there's so much more to collaboration. And it's, we can use that local rye and we can use our honey. And then next thing you know, we're doing a collaboration with Hungry Pigeon in Philadelphia, and the artist Maria Badia is doing a label for a beautiful bottle called A Town for a Bird, and there's a collaboration there, not only with a restaurant, but that beer involved pumice from a batch of Cab Franc from a local vineyard with Caramore. Talk about collaboration, there's so many different things going on there. So collaborations go so much further than just another brewery. It's continuous collaboration.
Even if you're a small brewery with a tap room, like you can't do it just by yourself. Like you need to involve other people.
It's nice to like get someone else's excitement and joy in. That makes my job that much more exciting. Just like sharing someone else's joy over making a product. Yeah, so we became friendly with the brewer from the Vale. Justin is a very talented artist, and he goes by Catboy on Instagram. His artwork is very beer related. He and I have become friends and of each other's artwork, and like, hey, we have this new space, would you ever want to show artwork at our place? And he was really into it. And then he said, do you want to brew a beer while we're up there? So The art kind of made the whole thing happen. And then, so he came up to install the art show. We brewed a beer the day before and hung out all weekend. It was the first time I've ever like facilitated an art show. But then like all the bands we get for the anniversary party, I feel like that's a collaboration too. And here we are sitting, being interviewed by you, like that's another very cool thing that's come out of this.
Like I even used the word like lenses shifting like a couple times, like us seeing like through your lenses has been a trip.
And yeah, it goes back to the big conversation of this being more than beer. It's pretty cool that we have a place that lets us do a little more than just beer.